Hi, my name is Adam. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm going to ask you a question. So, do you ever feel like the universe is out to get you? One. And two, do you feel like the law of attraction or manifestation is just doing nothing but causing disasters in your life? So what I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to tell a bit of a story about some scenarios I was in where I just felt like I was being targeted, attacked, fucked with. Everything was going wrong no matter what I did or intended. What I learned from that as far as what it was in me that was contributing to this, and what you can do if you're experiencing something similar to start to shift your perceptions to change the reality that you're having reflected back to you. So stay tuned. So for many, many years, I was living out this pattern, and it still pops up every once in a while, whereby whatever I did, I was in trouble. Everywhere I went, somehow something would happen where I would be in trouble, basically for no reason. When I was in fifth grade, a couple of my friends noticed this pattern and voted me most yelled at for nothing. And it was a very honoring moment because I felt like finally someone had seen me. In childhood, I was in trouble all the time, just part of my path. Now that followed me into my life. There were a number of years where I was working horrible jobs that I absolutely hated, that made me miserable, burnt out, tired, angry, suicidal. And every step I seemed to take to attempt to get out of this just resulted in a backfire. Anytime I set an intention to manifest something, it blew up in my face. And it just seemed like whatever I did, the universe was going to fuck me up. Okay. So just quickly to outline this pattern of always being in trouble. I worked many shit jobs. I worked as a waiter for a long time. I worked for Uber for 3 years. I remember I would be working as a waiter, and I would feel this pattern like getting ready to unfold again, right? I would maybe be kind of slacking off a bit as a waiter for a few weeks. And I would just sense like if you don't get your act together, you're going to get in trouble. I can't tell you how many times I've been called into an office by management, by teachers, by staff, with no clue whatsoever as to why I was in trouble. And they would always outline some problem someone had with me that seemed like a Twilight Zone sort of thing. Didn't know why this person had a problem, misunderstandings, misperceptions. You've been doing this, and this when I hadn't done any of it. Completely confused all the time. So I would feel like this pattern is going to come. And what I would do is I would go out of my way to stave it off, right? So if I felt like I was slacking off, I would spend 2 weeks as a waiter, like going above and beyond the call of duty. Right? I would help other servers bust their tables. I would be extra friendly and gregarious with the customers. I would refill drinks before they were even a quarter empty. Everything I could do. And this happened many times. After about 2 weeks of just being on fire and killing it, I'd get called into the office. Adam, we need to talk to you, management would say. And I'd be walking back to the office and I would be like, well, I don't know what problem they can possibly have with me. I have done everything I can to be amazing for the past 2 weeks. They'd call me in the office. They'd be like, sit down. Like, okay, what's going on? Well, for the past couple of weeks, we just noticed that you've been slacking off. You haven't, it seems like you don't want to be here. You don't care. And I would just sit there like dumbfounded, and I'd be like, well, what are you talking about? What am I not doing? They'd be like, well, for one, okay, you're not helping the other servers bust their tables. What are you talking about? I've been doing nothing but helping the other servers bust the table. So two, okay, two, you have a really bad attitude with the customers. You don't talk to them. You're not friendly. You're cold. We're getting complaints. You're not refilling drinks. I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm not refilling drinks. I've been refilling drinks all day, every day. Then they do something like, well, look at table 27's iced tea right now. I'd be like, I just refilled table 27's iced tea 30 seconds before you called me in here. That they drank it while you were walking me back to the office. This pattern would happen to me over and over and over again. Can any of you relate to this? Eventually, I just got out of waiting tables because it wasn't right for me. And I started driving for Uber because I was my own boss. And so I couldn't really be in trouble with management if I was driving for Uber. I would notice this pattern where I was always just left out. Like for Uber, like for example, when you drive for Uber, they had something called surge pricing. So what they would have, you'd have your little Uber iPhone, and there'd be a map of Los Angeles, and anywhere where there was surge pricing, it would be red, right? And anywhere where it wasn't, it would be white. I remember times when the whole map of Los Angeles was red, except for a tiny little white box around my car. I would notice that, and I would be like, okay, so if I drive from here just this way, I'm going to be in the red. I would drive for like 5-10 minutes, go back to the phone, and the white box would reconfigure around my car, and everything else was red, no matter what I did. And I was proof of God to me in the negative. So there's this one time where my rating dropped below a 4.7, right? So if you have to keep a rating of like 4.7 stars or something like that. If it drops below 4.7, you would get fired. So there was one time when it dropped below 4.7 for like a minute, and then it raised back up. And what I had noticed was that if I did anything like that was below perfection, somehow the rating would drop. Like I was doing everything I could. I would pick up someone for a ride. I would get out. I would open the door for them. I would ask them questions. I would, clean my shirts and pants every day. I would clean my car. I would offer to charge their phone. If I missed one of those things, the universe fucked me up. Anything missing, rating would drop. So I'm broke. I'm completely broke. I get my car washed for the week, and I lived on a street lined with trees, and there was only street parking. And if you got home like too late, you could only get a parking space directly below a tree with no spaces. Like you get a space between trees. The point being, if you were right below a tree, the birds often could shit on your car. It didn't happen every time, but sometimes it did. So I'm in this really shaky bind. I knew if I wasn't like perfect, the universe was just gonna fuck me up. I get my car washed. I get home late at night. There's nowhere to park but right beneath the trees. So what I do is, because I'm spiritual and I'm working on myself, and I'm getting into other dimensional consciousness and communicating with things and psychically, and I intend my consciousness up into the trees, and I say, listen, birds, please, I am a friend. I am a friend of the birds. Okay, if there's anything I can do to help you or be of service to you in any way, I'm happy to do it. I'm asking you for a favor. Please, tonight, don't shit on my car. I am on the edge of losing my job. Please, just don't shit on my car. I can't afford it. I go in the house. I come out the next day, dressed for work. And I swear to God, there is bird shit all over my car. There is bird shit on my roof. There was bird shit strewn across the windshield. And I swear to God, there was a pile of bird shit on the driver's side door handle. I don't even know how they did that. It didn't make any sense. It was like a 90-degree angle from the tree. It was on the handle and inside. Like I was completely convinced that it was intentional. It was a bird conspiracy. They all gathered around in the trees after I asked them. I'm like, please don't shit on my car. They're like, yeah, fuck you, dude. They went to some young maverick, like Top Gun hotshot bird who could pull off this incredible feat just to fuck with me. Like had to have flown at my car from the side angle, like flipped over and inverted upside down and backwards and just sprayed shit at his ass onto the door handle. There was no other explanation for this. So I couldn't go to work like that, so I had to go get my car washed again. And I just felt like I'm fucked. So the birds had shit all over my car. Now at this point, I had been doing work on myself for long enough to be like, you know what, universe? I'm gonna turn this into an opportunity. Okay? I'm gonna make a story out of this. I'm not gonna let this get me down. So I was beginning to do stand-up at the time. And, you know, when you're doing stand-up, it's difficult, especially at first, because you're doing, you know, I was doing open mics to other comics. It's hard to just do an open mic in front of 5 people, you know, that are all comics, because the bar is much higher. And I was just learning how to tell a story. So if I came up with something too original, sometimes I would feel like it was judged, but this was just something that happened to me. It was just a story that the universe gave me. So I didn't really feel as nervous about it. There wasn't as much attachment. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to start working on my bird shit story. You know, just kind of finding moments in the bird shit story. I also had this pattern whereby anytime I would come up with something, I felt like the universe would show me someone had done it better as kind of a way to be like, you know, no, you suck. No, fuck you. No, how can you do it as good as this person, right? So I was going to work on the bird shit story in an open mic, completely unestablished as a comic, and I was going to the Comedy Store, and I saw, like, that week, this very well-known comic, and he was telling a bird shit story. He was telling a story about getting shit on by a bird, except his story was much better than mine, because his story was about how he was out with his friend one day and he leaned back to laugh and he opened up his mouth and he went ha 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 ha, and a bird shit in his mouth. And I was like, well, fuck it. I can't tell this story now because it's not as good as his. It's not as funny. His is better than mine. And everyone is now going to think that I'm just copying, you know, this guy trying to tell a bird shit story. So I abandoned my bird shit story. Okay, now, what is there to unpack from this and learn from it? Why was this happening to me? The first point I want to make is that the universe was not actually out to get me. The universe is never out to get us. It's stuff in us that we're perceiving in the reflection in sort of like a victim sort of mindset. That's where it generally comes from. Sometimes it's because a situation no longer serves you and the universe is kind of almost messing everything up. You're really the one doing it. Like your higher self is messing everything up to get you out of that scenario. In this case, though, it was more along the lines of my perception and traumas. I know a lot of people who get in the law of attraction and try to ask for things, doesn't go the way that you want it. A lot of people feel like the universe is out to get you. This is a very multi-layered problem or issue. And I can't go all the way into it, but I'm just going to give you some hints in case you have things going on like this yourself so you can start to know where to look. Okay, one, my pattern from childhood of always being in trouble. That was from childhood of always being in trouble. My mother had that pattern too. So I was walking around in my subconscious and in my body with an imprint, get this guy. He did something. And that's what other people began to see, and that's what I began to manifest. Now, the universe is out to get me. That's another belief that I had, right? Which partially came from childhood, from my mother, also partially came from religious programming, lack of trust, fear of people, social anxiety, right? I perceive my environment to be a threat, not loving, which is trauma. So that's what I started to call in. The belief that I wasn't good enough or worthy enough, very deep-seated imprint. Also, poverty consciousness. I had a financial set point. I had a very low financial set point and poverty consciousness. So that meant that I would always work really hard and just barely make the minimum. So if there was surge pricing, somehow I manifested missing it. Now, I'm not saying I never got surge pricing. I did sometimes. But that phenomena of like being in the white box happened way too many times for it not to be something. Right? Not a coincidence. Then also my belief that my voice didn't matter and I wasn't relevant. And fear of criticism and judgment. That's why I manifested the guy telling the bird shit story. Because it was confirmation of the belief that no, you can't talk. And an excuse, because I was scared to speak. I was scared to show my voice. So that was another reason why, okay, no, can't do it. So if you're struggling with these issues, what can you do about it? Well, it's very complicated, but just some quick tips. Look at your beliefs. What are your beliefs? What do you believe about the universe? What do you believe about yourself? 2, where did they come from? Now, childhood is a very common place, but they come from more than childhood. They can come from your ancestors. Now, it's hard to delineate that, but you identify that. They can come from all sorts of places. Society, religion, past partnerships, old friends. Sometimes you're just born with stuff you don't even know where it came from. 3, write about it. Write about your patterns. Identify what they are so you can start to see the mechanisms of them. And you can get to the root of what they even are. Just breathing light or awareness into anything does so much to clear it. And 4, ask questions. The energy on the planet is increasing so much. The consciousness on the planet is increasing so much now that things can shift in you really fast. But you got to know that you have the power to do it. So if you're not sure where something came from, always ask for what the root is. What is the root of this? Now, you may not get to the root because you're not ready for the root, but you'll get to the root of that layer. Ask for the root. What is the root cause of this issue? Where did it come from? Where did it originate from? And you may not get an answer right away, then let go of it. Just let go of it. Kind of contemplate, meditate, stop thinking about it. It'll come to you. It'll come to you in the shower. It'll come to you on a walk. And lastly, ask whatever you believe in your higher self, your greater self, to have it removed or neutralized. There's so much power in that now. And if it doesn't clear all of it, it will at least clear the layer that you're ready to clear, and it will start to move. It'll start to shift, and then tell a new story, right? Tell a new story, like the bird shit story. I manifested someone telling the story, not because I wasn't supposed to speak, but because I was. Because it was an opportunity for me to understand that I'm not the only one, right, with a similar idea. My way of telling the story, 1, it's a different story. 2, my way of telling the story is different. 3, it's an opportunity to confront my fear of what people are going to think of me or judgment and do it anyway. Start to just shift the narrative. So anyway, I know that was a lot. Please let me know what you think in the comments. If you have any other questions or insights, And please feel free to like and subscribe. And until until next time.